Okay. So then he talks about a decent life for all.
Next chapter. Yes.
And fundamental principle is this. Markets have not done a good enough job ensuring basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the government's got to step in.
Yes. He talks about a public option.
Which is so funny. Like, did you read ahead?
No.
Because last week when we were filming, you were like, I feel like so many of these conversations just boil down to we need a public option. And then in this chapter, he's like, we need a public option.
I didn't even remember that I said that.
Oh, well,
or that I used that vocabulary.
That's exactly. I don't know if. Well, what happened was you said something like if you had a government alternative.
Yes.
And that's literally what.
That's exactly
what this is.
Yeah. No, when I read this, I was like, perfect. Exactly.
This is exactly what I believe written on paper.
Yeah. So he basically gives 4 different categories where this needs to be. So healthcare is the first one. The public needs to be more involved in providing for healthcare. I was a little bit confused here because I'm not. Maybe you can fill me in on what has the Affordable Care Act done? What is it missing as far as providing a public option for healthcare?
Well, there isn't one in it. So the Affordable Care Act mandated that every single person in the United States had to buy health insurance. The same way that you needed to buy car insurance, you need to buy health insurance.
Okay.
It also said that health insurance companies cannot discriminate to you based off pre-existing conditions. Whether you have diabetes, health insurance can't say we're not going to cover you or charge you more for things like that. Then it also provided a marketplace for you to log into and find healthcare plans that will be affordable to you. And then Obamacare will, and then through the Affordable Care Act, there are subsidies in place where the government picks up a piece of the bill for you to enter the market.
Okay.
That's what the Affordable Care Act did.
It seems so
terrible.
Meh.
It seems terrible. I hate it.
It just doesn't do anything.
Well, I think it's awful that actually awful that we say, okay, I know you can't afford healthcare and it's too expensive and private insurance companies charge way too much. So how about you pay 20% and we'll pay the other 80% to this private insurance company making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Like that's what the subsidy is doing.
Sure.
That's not actually addressing the actual problem of it being too expensive. Yeah. You're subsidizing their bad behavior.
Yeah.
And there are some stipulations that in order to get onto the Obamacare network, the Obamacare marketplace online, you have to have some standards, which is good. But so that's where it misses. And, the percent of people who had health insurance after Obamacare, we're just going to go into the access for healthcare portion of the book. So the people who had health insurance pre-Obamacare was like 84%. After Obamacare, it went to like 82%.
Really?
Yeah, it jumped like almost a full 10%. So it was and also
92.
Yeah.
You said 84 to 82.
Oh, sorry. 84 to 92.
Okay.
And Obamacare also, I forgot to mention this part. This is also a big deal. It expanded Medicaid. So it increased the amount of people who were able to sign on to Medicaid, but that had specific rollout requirements where states had to vote to do it. And a lot of Republican states never voted to do it. But it went from 84 to 92. Under the Trump administration, it got worse. People who lost health insurance during the Trump administration. So I have this chart up here. In 2020, in 2014, 8 million people were rolling on to these marketplace things through the Affordable Care Act. In 2016, it was around 12 million. By the time Trump left office, it was 11 million. And by the time Biden is now in office, it's up to 16 million. There were policy decisions that Trump made through the tax, specifically the tax cut. The tax cut also removed the individual mandate on the Affordable Care Act, which said that now you don't need to buy health insurance. Well, now that completely disincentivized people to go out and do it. So now they didn't do it. Under Biden, he still didn't implement that mandate, but he's increased the Obamacare subsidies so much through the American Rescue Plan Act and through the Inflation Reduction Act that now we've been able to get up to 16 million more people. So between the years of 2016 and 2019, the majority of President Trump's current term in office, you ready? The number of Americans without health insurance jumped 2.3 million. And that loss of healthcare coverage led to 4,000 deaths and possibly as many as 25,000. There are incredible material consequences to not prioritizing healthcare. That's insane. At least 4,000 up to maybe 25,000 deaths because of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's horrible.
It's insane. And so, that's the thing. The health insurance debate. There is no Republican plan for healthcare.
Yeah.
The Republican plan for healthcare is you either bought insurance or you didn't. And if you didn't, too bad.
Yeah.
Go watch the presidential debates from 2011. You have Ron Paul arguing with Mitt Romney about healthcare, and Ron Paul, who was like a very libertarian candidate. Honestly, Ron Paul is basically the party that we have today. Ron Paul, the way that Bernie Sanders kind of captured the Democrat Party's imagination in 2016, Ron Paul captured the Republican imagination in 2012. And Ron Paul said, that sucks. Like, what happens if a young guy gets cancer, didn't have health insurance? That sucks. That's basically his answer.
Yeah.
And that's the Republican answer. That's what they believe.
Yeah.
So,
that's brutal.
Jeez. Anyway.
Yeah. So the idea is healthcare should be a human right.
Yeah.
And if it is, then the government should insure it. It's really that simple.
That simple. Now, Obama tried to get a public option. It failed, specifically because of a guy named Lieberman. He was a senator. Joseph Lieberman. He was big time moderate, the original Joe Manchin, some would say. And he absolutely killed the public option. And the public option is suggesting that anybody in America could buy into Medicare at any age. No matter what age you are, you can buy into Medicare and you can be a part of the Medicare program, which sounds perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a little bit at odds with Medicare for All. There's a little bit of a difference. Medicare for All wants to abolish all private insurance.
Oh, I don't think there's just no need for that. Like,
I
if
don't
you
think
have
there's
a
a
public
need for
option,
that.
there isn't a need for that because it's gonna compete with the private options. And they're going to be required to lower their costs or else just lose more and more customers to the government. And he uses the example of the United Kingdom as one where there is a thriving private healthcare insurance industry and government provided health insurance.
Yeah.
And I think there will probably be a niche for private health insurance to fill into, like maybe for richer, more specialized healthcare needs. But generally, having a government option is going to be the way to go.
The only thing I'm concerned about with public option versus Medicare for All is with a public option, I think that younger people who are really healthy won't want to buy into the public option.
Sure.
And the public option will take on all of the sickest and all of the oldest. And that might make the private companies way cheaper than the public option could ever be.
Okay.
Because then the private companies can say, we're only taking the 20 and 30-year-olds because all the 50 and 60-year-olds went to the public option. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's my concern with the private thing still existing. But I think the public option is an awesome place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Love the public option.
Okay, next thing he talks about is retirement.
This is a great example of that public-private insurance working in tandem, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically public option for Social Security.
Yeah.
Needs to be had. I was confused because I feel like Social Security is already pretty robust. So what exactly are the differences he's looking for here?
He's looking for Social Security money. Basically, what I talked about last time, and I kind of joked that we need a hedge fund of the United States.
Yeah, that's what he's...
We need the Social Security Trust Fund to start investing the money in S&P 500 index funds or infrastructure bank bonds that he's referring to. And we should start making money off of our Social Security money. That's what needs to start happening.
Yeah.
It needs to start happening. It would help us so much. I know it exposes volatility to our Social Security system. I get that. But in the long run, it will absolutely be more it's so effective.
Yeah.
The amount of money we'll be able to generate.
Totally. Our government needs to be willing to take a small bit of risk.
It's the smallest risk. It actually is the smallest risk. I mean, you can literally buy the safest investments the safest mutual funds at
Exactly.
3%.
Yeah.
You know? And you don't, with 3% return rates, with no fees, because what's so terrible right now is people have 401ks and or Roth IRAs. And if you don't read the fine print, you might be charged a 1% fee for for Fidelity to manage your money. A 1% fee is so much money. If we're talking about a difference of 40 years between a 6% return over 40 years and a 7% return over 40 years, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars being given to Fidelity that should have just been yours.
Wow.
For not even to really actively manage your account that much. A 7% growth of $100,000 compared to a 6% growth of $100,000 over 40 years, worlds of a difference. So that 1% fee, if any of you have a 401k out there, which I hope you do, or a Roth IRA, which you better, go check the fees that you're getting charged. I ran through my mom's and I recently found out she was getting a 1.1% fee. And I was like, oh my God, you need to change this fund is in right now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Super exploitive.
Yeah.
So
Good to
giving
know.
people a public option to that garbage would be great.
I'll be checking up on that.
Yeah.
Home ownership.
Home ownership.
Next. So this is probably where I was most confused. He lays out basically a way that the IRS could be used as a mortgage provider.
I love this so much.
So he talks about how the IRS has a database of historical family income, and that it also has the data concerning housing transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says these are the data that would be needed to create a mortgage payment vehicle. Since the IRS has this, we should just fold it in.
Totally. What are you confused there?
I guess I'm not sure. I don't know how these data work to create this mortgage payment vehicle.
Oh, neither do I.
Okay. I don't understand the nitty-gritty.
Okay, yeah. No, I don't either. What I do understand is currently the federal government backs the vast majority of mortgages, even if the mortgages are held by the private sector.
Yes.
So a bank gives you a mortgage, but the government backstops it if you default on that mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Why should this bank be able to profit off of this if the public takes all the risk? Well, if the public is taking all the risk, time for the public to profit. Or time for the public to reduce the cost so much because there's no need to profit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And that's housing.
I'm down.
Totally down. Public option for housing. Love it.
All right. And then finally is education. Equalize educational opportunity, which means create availability for pre-K, give access to colleges and universities to all, reduce the amount of student debt that people have to get into to go to college, and the amount of interest that they have to pay back, which again could work through a government bank. This is again where he gives the option for income contingent loans to be given for student debt. I feel like I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Income contingent loans can be predatory because just interest can accumulate so fast if your income isn't high. And if you're only paying 5% of your income to the student loan and your income is so low, you're never going to make a dent in your student loan. You're in debt forever.
This is okay. Yeah.
So that's an issue.
Sure.
But that's an issue with our current system. If it's federally backstopped, I feel like it's a little different. But also, listen, the real solution here is free public community college and then a free public college alternative.
Sure.
The answer is not better student loan payment plans. The answer is college is going to be free.
Yeah.
So, and again, I want to emphasize, this was a part of Biden's family plan in the beginning of his presidency, pretty much all of this. It never happened, but he tried. And I think it's so interesting.
Maybe Stiglitz has been...
Well, Stiglitz is a Nobel Prize economist who worked in the Obama administration, right?
Exactly.
So I'm sure he's had his ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Then last chapter...
Oh, wait. You know what? Last thing about schools.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Schools are currently funded through zip codes.
Yes.
The only way that this is going to be fixed with these education systems is that schools need to be funded on a state level and then federal level. Because if we keep doing this local level funding each school district, poor schools are going to be poor forever and rich schools are going to be rich forever. And the poor kids are never going to have a shot. So
he talks about how the federal government needs to incentivize the states to have redistributive funding for its public schools.
There you go.
To raise up those underprivileged areas.
Yes.